Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdicus Dave, and today I am joined by Jessica Markrum. Am I saying that right?
You are.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. If you could be so kind to introduce yourself and kind of tell people a little bit about you.
Whoa. Oh my God, my sound is on. I'm so sorry. Look at that. Look at that. Hey, sorry. That was my fault.
We're doing it live.
Yeah, I'm Jessica Markrum, sometimes Angry Nerd Girl. My pronouns are she, her. And I write TTRPGs and I do therapy / social work, trauma therapy, sensitivity reading for mental health. And I got started with the Uncaged Anthology, do a lot with DM's Guild, and now I have stuff coming up in the upcoming Pugmire Kickstarter. I write some stuff for Cubicle 7 with Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar Soulbound, and I stream a lot of TTRPGs too. So that's me.
You do a lot of things.
I do.
And as always, folks, there are links in the description. Go click away and follow Jessica on the social medias, all of them. So we were actually doing a lot of talking beforehand, and we didn't talk about tabletop RPGs at all. It was all like pet stuff.
Yeah.
It sometimes bleeds over into our chats. Like if anyone ever shows up with like a weird pet in the background or unusual pet, the chances of me talking about gaming stuff has gone significantly down. So what has been your favorite RPG to work on?
Oh, I get asked this question a lot, and it's always like whatever I'm working on at that moment.
Yeah, I totally get that because we do a lot of videos on different things, especially like monsters. And it's like, it doesn't matter what monster it is, it's always my favorite.
Yeah, like it's hard for me to work on two games at once if they're for very different systems because it's hard to make my brain work that way. But yeah, I tend to like throw myself into whatever RPG I'm working on. And I'm like, this is the best ever. It does so many cool things.
Yeah.
And then I work on a different game and I'm like, this is the best ever. I love what this is doing.
That's
Except
good,
for
though.
my own systems. I just kind of like throw those out into the world. And I'm like, look, I made a piece of trash. You can give me money for it. And I'll forget it ever exists.
I'm sure not. It seems like a lot of reputable people are paying you to write for them. So I'm sure the stuff you're doing is not trash. What are your own RPGs?
I wrote a Wretched and Alone hack called Operation Cat Chat, where instead of using a Jenga tower, you use a cat. If your cat leaves, you lose the game. I wrote a game called Dumpster Fire, which is literally a garbage game for garbage year. I wrote it in 2020, where you play as like possums and raccoons and rats. And your job, it's kind of a lasers and feelings hack, but your job is to defend your dumpster. And then I've written a couple games that use tarot and dice. So The Coven at the End of the Lane is one where you're a bunch of witches in a house together. And another one called Necromancy, where you're a bunch of cats at a magic school and you use tarot cards to cast your spells.
Do you have an option to buy a cat for the cat game?
To buy a cat?
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to play your game if you don't have a cat?
It says to use your cat or a cat that will tolerate you.
So kidnapping other cats so that you can have a cat for the game, totally viable.
You can play with a dog, but that's on easy mode because it's unlikely a dog is going to leave if you're giving it treats and petting it.
That's true. Although, I mean, our cats are very, very treat centric.
Yeah.
But they also, my wife is cursed with pets that don't want to be held and cuddled. And it breaks her heart. She's like, I just want to hold them. And they're like, no. One of them screams bloody murder, and the other one just threatens you with bloody murder.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Like the older one, the gray, the polydactyl, when you pick him up and hold him, the back legs extend, and then the claws pop out, and they just look so huge, and he just growls the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
And then the other one just squirms and screams.
So Actually, the first subclass I ever made was
Uh,
the College of Caterwauling, and it's a Tabaxi Bard college on DM's Guild. And I made it because my downstairs neighbor had just had a baby, and the baby would cry all night, and all my cats would respond. So I was up all night listening to like cats howling
yeah.
at the same frequency as a baby all night, every night.
I mean, babies are annoying enough. I know, I've had a few of them. And then add cats into the mix as well. Although we're kind of lucky with our cats as far as being annoying. Well, first of all, we should sleep with our door shut, and don't let the animals in. Although occasionally they will bang on the door.
That?
They do. Occasionally they will bang on the door for a while, and then they give up and go elsewhere. I think then they bang on my son's door, and then he lets them in.
Yeah, when I first got a cat, I tried keeping him out, and he banged on the door for about 2 hours. And
Yeah.
he was old, and I was worried he was gonna like break his bones, so I let him in.
Wow.
And now I wake up every morning, and my cat has stolen my pillow and is like splayed out on my face. So that's how I wake up now.
And what is the name of the game with the cat again?
Oh my god, the one that you play with your cat is Operation Cat Chat.
Operation Cat Chat. Okay.
Yeah.
I must say, I have never heard of this mechanic before.
So Chris Bissett and Matt Sanders wrote The Wretched, which is this wonderful game that was inspired by Alien, where you're you're exploring an abandoned spaceship, and you use a deck of like playing cards as prompts, and it's a solo game. And you draw from a Jenga tower, and when the tower falls, you die, basically. And the whole concept is the game is depressing. You're going to lose no matter what. And they released an SRD for it, so like anybody could write it. And then they did a big game jam for like anybody to make their own Wretched hacks. And I decided to make one about it was right at the beginning of quarantine. So I decided to make one about like, you've been quarantined for like 2 months or something, and your internet is shut off, and you have no one to talk to except your cat. And I used a cat instead of the tower, and with no one to talk to, you decide to try and speak cat. So that's the concept of the game. And also your cat might be an alien from outer space, like a scout coming to invade Earth. Maybe everyone's quarantined because of like toxoplasmosis or something. Toxoplasmosis, like a cat plague.
I would not actually be surprised to find out cats were indeed aliens invading our planet.
Yeah.
They are definitely a different kind of animal.
Have you seen The Cat from Outer Space? Like the Disney movie from the 60s?
I don't know if I have. I think I have, because they used like a real cat, right? It wasn't animated.
Yeah, they used a real cat with like a glowy
I vaguely
collar.
remember it, yeah.
I loved that movie as a kid.
That is funny though. The cat inspiration.
Yeah.
And also, Brian had mentioned in the chat about teaming up with local humane society. You mentioned that's a great idea. It is a great idea. Also, like, there was someone that made a cat card game, and the way they market it was to go to it was like a pet convention or a cat convention.
Huh.
And they actually had a lot of success with that.
That's cool.
Cantankerous Cats, that's the name of it. Unfortunately, my brain is so like fire and forget. And I'm like, I'm like agonizing. What is the name of that card game?
I have Communist Cats and I have Tempura.
Yeah.
I don't know Cantankerous Cats.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting that, the way he marketed that, and was like, and it was successful. Because people were like, oh, there are games for us, the people that own cats? And he's like, yes, only this one. There isn't a bunch of other ones either.
Oh my God, my friendly local game store has, before they moved, they had like an entire section at the front that was like just cat games.
Yeah. I know there are quite a few, because because cats occupy such a large space in our culture now. I mean, and they always
Yeah.
have, really. It's so weird.
There's like kittens in a blender and exploding kittens and
They were
cat
playing Kittens in a
lady.
Blender this weekend when we got together for Father's Day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the niece and nephews. Yeah. Also, that same guy makes a catnip tea.
Oh
I was like, you can do that? You can drink that? How do the cats
yeah.
like it?
Catnip is pretty much it's not identical, but it's really similar to valerian root.
Mm.
So catnip tea should be pretty relaxing.
I don't know. I'm more of a coffee drinker. I'm more. I'm more
Cheers.
about. Yeah. I drink tea like when I get sick
Mm.
and I'm
Mm-hmm.
dying. So, um, you also mentioned you do a bunch of streaming as well. You said you had streamed for the Pugmire folks for like 2 years.
We did 2 seasons. It felt like 2 years. I think it
Oh,
was a
okay,
year
two
and a half.
seasons.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was a year and a half. We finished the last season on my channel. But yeah, when Onyx Path first started their Twitch channel, they invited me to come run a Pugmire stream there. So we did Paws and Claws, the Lost Tales of Pugmire, for 3 seasons, which was pretty fun. And it kind of changed as the cast changed a little bit because a couple of people had to move on from the first season was all dogs and one cat. And
Uh,
then the second season was kind of 50-50. And the last season was all cats and one lizard.
it's very anti-pug.
Yeah, the last season was set in the monarchies of Mao and was very much a cat game.
Yeah, and one lizard.
And one lizard. Very manipulative, evil lizard.
Fair enough. They are cold-blooded. Um, so do you prefer playing or GMing?
It used to be either, but I've kind of accepted my role as a perma GM. And
Yeah.
I've noticed that even when I'm a player, I'm still kind of thinking like a GM.
Yeah. For
So,
better or worse, sometimes, for me anyway.
yeah, it can be. Yeah, I have more fun as a GM because even sometimes, I'm trying to see where things go or how different mechanics work,
Uh-huh.
or just like figure out what is going on and how things are working together, or when players are just I forgot to ask, what's the rating on this stream? Can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear some, sure.
Okay. But well, I'll say if players are just screwing around.
Yeah.
And totally ignoring hooks. I'm the one who's like, you guys, I think that we're supposed to be going over here for GMing purposes, for plot purposes. So let's do that. Let's help the GM along and do that.
Yeah.
Or I think people keep telling us about this castle because that's
Yeah.
where the plot is.
For me, I do that, but which side I go depends on the GM. I know if I've played with some GMs that really care about when you take their plot hooks and they get a little addled when you don't. So I'm I will steer us back. But it was funny, we had just finished the session and Ted's like, well, what do you guys think you're going to do next session? And we all tell him something and agree on something. And next session comes along, we just totally do something else. We didn't plan to totally, but we did. And but it was all right. Ted's fine with it. He can handle it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You improv GM, heavy prep?
It depends. So I GM for Magpie almost every Saturday as part of their curated play program.
Uh-huh.
And those are all powered by the Apocalypse games. So for those, they're very improv heavy because so much of what you're doing comes from the players and the player choices. Although one of the ones I'm running constantly is Bluebird's Bride, which is one of the PBTA games you can prep a little bit more for, but I still tend to take it from player choices and like what they're wanting to do. On the other hand, every Friday, so today, at 8 p.m. on my channel, I run a game called Three Flings, which is the adventures of three tieflings venturing through the entirety of the Uncaged anthology. And so that's a series of interconnected one-shots. It's like 100 one-shots all tied together. So that I do prep a lot because I'm running someone else's adventure.
Yeah, that makes sense because it just requires more. It's actually why I don't like running pre-written adventures.
Yeah,
because I just feel like there's more work involved.
I mean, on one hand, it's easier because I'm just like, I know what's going to happen because I'm reading it from a book. But and someone else has made maps for me if maps are necessary.
Yeah.
But on the other, and we ran into this. We've run into this, I think, twice, where there, because of the show that we've set up, we want to present the Uncaged anthology like as written. So there are a couple things that have been in some of the adventures that are like lines for me or things that I wouldn't allow at my table that I've had to bend on or that we've had to discuss as players in advance. Like, hey, this involves this theme. So how can we make this okay to present it? Which if I were just running it at my table, I'd be like, oh, I'm just not going to run this adventure. Or I'll just cut that little part out. But because we want to show them as they're written, we're not doing that, you know?
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff we tend to run is homebrew, a lot of improv. Although, like, I started running a Monster of the Week game.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, where I'm doing a lot more prep than I normally do. I guess it's because I'm like nervous about running a new system. Like I had played Monster of the Week. I played like 2 sessions. And then we were switching GMs from a game we were playing, and I'm like, I can run D&D or this or that, and then I'm like, if people are interested in Monster Week, I definitely can pitch you some ideas for that, and so that's been fun, especially to run it as an ongoing campaign as opposed to a one shot.
Yeah.
They work for a paranormal government or shadowy government organization known as Pickle. It's just, and that game is just about like how many ridiculous the word just fell right out of my head. You know, when you use letters to spell something from words.
Like writing?
Yeah, no, yeah.
An acronym?
Acronym, that's the word I'm looking for. It's like I had it and then lost it. That happens often. So yeah, so Pickle is the Paranormal Investigative Criminal Enforcement and Location Department.
Oh, that's fun.
So it's like every acronym is just like a little bit more ridiculous than the one before it. So
I got to play in a really short-lived Monster of the Week campaign that Kat Evans ran. Just not streamed, but privately. It was so fun. And it was at maybe it was streamed. I don't remember. Wow. But I think it was. I have no memory of anything before 2020 now. But
it is hard.
But we were at a haunted high school, and I was the only one who wasn't a student. I was like the divine one. But my character had been like raised in a cult, and she was atheist. And even though she was like divine touch, she didn't believe in any of it. And then she had come to the school as like a religious studies teacher.
Nice.
Yeah.
I met Kat at D&D in a castle a few years back.
I've heard that's so fun.
It is a lot of fun. I mean, you're playing D&D and you're in a castle. I mean, what more can you want? It's definitely a blast. So what are you currently playing?
Well, I'm running D&D for Three Flings every Friday. My Magpie schedule fluctuates, so I am either running Bluebeard's Bride, Urban Shadows, or World of Avatar every Saturday. And then for home games, sometimes Simber Room, sometimes Age of Sigmar Soulbound, sometimes just playtesting whatever I'm working on.
It's a lot.
Or playtesting whatever my friends are doing. Like, I got to play some Morkborg. I was going to say recently, but that was like 6 months ago. So
I feel like we're still like in the aftermath of 2020, so time's still a little weird yet.
For real, yeah.
I just started going back to the gym, and in our group we had our first couple in-person sessions, and I just feel like a groundhog coming out of my hole. Be like, is there a plague, or do I go back in for 6 weeks?
Yeah, one of my home GMs just asked like if I wanted to get back together for our Palladium campaign that has been on hiatus for like 3 years. And I was like, I don't even know what time is right now. Yeah. Like, I love that campaign, but I don't know.
Palladium, huh?
Yeah.
What are you guys playing?
Palladium.
Well, there's like Rifts. There's Heroes Unlimited.
Oh yeah, it's not Rifts.
There's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No, it's the high fantasy one because I was a Wolfen Paladin. So,
okay.
Yeah, I was
the high fantasy. I think that is Rifts. I think that's the. I thought
maybe. Rifts was space.
I don't know. It all kinds of blends together. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Palladium games. Yeah. It's so very 80s.
Yeah, one of my home GMs like loves Palladium and AD&D.
They're out there.
And he ran the first game I ever played, which was Tunnels and Trolls, because he was like, "You're not starting with D&D."
Oh, so you didn't start with D&D then?
Mm-mm.
Tunnels and Trolls. How long have you been working as a designer?
800 years, which is actually, I think, 2.5 years.
Oh, it's Palladium Fantasy. You and Chad are much smarter than me. I've only played Heroes Unlimited and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Palladium.
Okay.
And my immediate takeaway from that system was, I'd rather play something else.
It's the thing that I don't like about it is the leveling. But there is, I think a lot of people give it a lot of flack, but I've had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, well, that being said, like, one of the most fun games I ever played was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. Like, to me, like, the system is secondary to the people you're playing with.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, like, I had gotten involved in a Heroes Unlimited game, and I just remember playing Marvel Phase Rip, and I'm like, you know what? I think that was a better system. I like that system better. And then I started poking around the internet, and I found Mutants of Masterminds from Green Ronin and Champions were like the two games that people were talking about at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, Mutants of Masterminds is a D20 system. That's our group is used to that.
Yeah.
And so we started running that at our table a lot. Even converted over the GM from the Heroes Unlimited game to it begrudgingly. And with each edition of M&M, it got further and further away from D&D, and it just got better and better.
That's cool. I haven't played that one.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, you only need one die, so the D20, that's it, and you can make pretty much any superhero that you can think of or you've seen can be made with that system. Super flexible. Cool. It makes it a little front end loaded for the learning curve, but like once you actually start playing it, and if you kind of know like third edition, then like it's super easy, and it's also even a little bit easier than third, I think.
Okay.
One of the things that makes like the powers work really well is it's an effect based system, and it's classless. So if you're doing an effect that's damage, it doesn't, like, the damage just becomes a descriptor. So like what the damage you do doesn't actually matter. And a
Like
lot
the type of damage.
yeah,
Okay.
it's just the same. It's an effect. Is it a melee effect? Is it a range effect? Is it an
Yeah.
area effect? And then you can describe it however you want. It made it really easy for designing adventures because everything was based on the PL system power level, and it was a swing of like if like a standard hero would be like a power level 10. So like all the numbers were based off of that, and you could do things like if you wanted a higher number in something, you could take a hit to the opposing stat to like so you had a swing, right? And it was just really easy. Like if you had a PL level adventuring group or a hero group, you knew that you could just use that number and just describe whatever, and the mechanics just worked out. And it was super easy to do on the fly.
That's cool. I know a lot of people have been playing Masks for like superhero stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't run that one, but it's like really popular, at least in the CPP for Magpie right now.
Yeah, I've seen that come up a lot. I've not had a chance to play it. Unfortunately, there's so many games. A friend of mine is working on a game that is a Morkborg hack. So now I've like almost played Morkborg. So
is it a superhero hack of Morkborg? Because that seems like
it's a
the
horror
anti-Morkborg.
No, it's a horror science fiction.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it'll be on Game Founder. I think that's the name of the platform. Next month. It's Vast Grim.
Okay.
So it's super cool. It's like this idea that like the universe is going to shit, and I think the Earth like exploded, and now people live on ships and space stations. And in an attempt to kind of like fix things, they open this like arcane vault, releasing worms, which are just like these parasites that basically create space zombies.
That sounds like a great idea for them.
Yeah, and then like anyone that gets infected are called the Grim. So it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it, and it just has like a super cool aesthetic to it. The designer is Brian Colin from Creature Curators. If you've ever, are you familiar with them?
The Creature Curators, yeah.
Yeah, they make like he makes cool sculptures and stuff.
Yeah, I love me some monsters.
Yeah, like that. His booth was like my favorite thing at Origins, I think, when I first met him. Because it's like you're just walking down the aisle and like this big monster head's just like peeking out of his booth. So.
Oh, that sounds cool.
So, as a designer, is there a certain niche that you prefer or where you like to work, whether it's genre, type of play style?
I think my work has been called whimsically creepy.
Oh, I like it.
I think that's probably, if I have a niche, that's where it lies. Because I write stuff that I find endearing and I think it's kind of cute. And then my editors read it and they're like, this is horrifying. And I'm like, but it's cute, right? They're like, yeah, that too.
Sort of. That probably makes it more horrifying.
So I think that's kind of what I write.
Nice.
Yeah, I really leaned into that around Halloween, and I ran was it the Fluffy Horror Jam? So I just asked everybody to write games that were kind of in that little area, and I released 10 monsters for D&D because everybody kept saying like, stop putting your D&D stuff on DM's Guild, we'll buy it on itch. That's a lie, they don't. But I wanted to see if they were being honest. So I made 10 tiny or small, I think they're all tiny actually, tiny monsters that it's like $1 or something for D&D.
Oh, nice. They
sound like mess with your brain and stuff.
It sounds like it would be a great great like source for familiars.
Yeah, some of them are like, and some of them are based on pop culture. So like sort of from the or mythology. So there's like a pig who can see the future, sort of based on Henwin from Chronicles of Prydian. One of them is sort of like the Babel slug combined with the brain slug, or the Babel fish combined with the brain slug. So it's like uh, a translational thing that you put in your ear, and it translates everything for you while also devouring your mind.
Social media? Think you just described Facebook, Twitter. It just makes me think of the Star Trek movie Wrath of Khan with the worms.
Oh yeah. And then, because I love a pun, I had the teddy bears that were they're little tiny golems that are flesh golems but small because they're teddy bears.
Oh,
Give them to your children.
That's so good. That I would love to introduce the creepy child that has that with them, and they're just like kind of dragging it around by its foot or by its arm. And then all of a sudden it begins to move.
One of my favorite characters monsters that I wrote was actually for Pugmire.
Yeah.
For Morty Corgi's Scroll of Mystery was that's been banned from all my games. My players have said I can't introduce it. And he's the curious puppy. And he looks like a puppy, but he's actually a lich. Kind of. He basically questions your deepest fears or says them like they're true. And the longer you're with him, your stats go down. Like your wisdom stats go down every day as you doubt yourself.
Yeah.
And
it's an anti-puppy.
Yeah, he only has like 1 hit point.
Yeah.
Because he's a puppy. But if you kill him, he comes back in 10 days because doubt can't ever really die.
That is evil. Now I want you to make an Elmira.
Like from Tiny Toons?
Yes. An evil Elmira. with our host of cute and cuddly evil minions.
That would actually be pretty fun. I would love to write a Tiny Toons game if Steven Spielberg ever wants to give up the licensing.
Yeah, probably not going to happen.
I don't know. They just brought Animaniacs back, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, it could happen. It would just require a lot of money.
Yeah.
To grease that big wheel.
Yeah.
So, are you playing in any streams, or are you the GM in all of them?
I am playing in one. It's been kind of irregular though, but on Sundays on Honey and Dice's channel, I play in a Call of Cthulhu inspired stream called Clockwork Vines. So it's what's she calling it? Basically Floral Punk. It takes place in the Gaslight era of kind of Victorian England. And it's an altered Call of Cthulhu system without the madness mechanics.
What makes something floral punk?
There's evil flowers.
And
instead of steampunk, everything, it's very like, I think if Nikki's still in chat, she's on the stream too. She can talk about it. But yeah, there's lots of like what you would expect from steampunk, like the steam engines and the clockwork and stuff like that. But there's also like clockwork flowers and vines and stuff that are all, coming together to help you or eat your face. My best friend in it is a little squirrel named Acorn, who has a mechanical leg and a tiny little gun.
As you should. I'd got like burnout on like fantasy, and it's like went into steampunk, and there's like this alternate history written by I think Mark Hoder is the author, and it was like it used a lot of like real characters from history and like Sir Burton was the main character, and like
Mhm.
in a throwaway comment, like they destroy Ireland, the island, is overrun from eugenics experiments involving carnivorous plants, and like they just briefly mentioned like all the refugees from Ireland coming in because Ireland is no longer inhabitable
Okay.
because of evil plants, essentially.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite genre?
I really like fantasy. I'm a dork. I really like it. I like high fantasy, and I really like Victorian era stuff, like if you saw the show Penny Dreadful, like that's really my zhuzh. I
Okay.
like I I guess urban fantasy, but not modern.
Okay. I have not seen that. Um,
Urban fantasy of like 150 years ago, or
yeah. Have
200.
you seen like Shadow and is it Shadow and
Shadow and
Bone?
Bone? Yeah, I liked that. I just read Six of Crows. I finished it yesterday.
And then Carnival Row was another one. Irregulars was kind of another one. There seems like there's a bunch that are kind of like that. That Gaslight
Yeah,
error.
I didn't see either of those, but I did want to watch. Was it Carnival? I
Yeah,
think
Carnival Row.
there was one that was like 10 years ago or something that
Oh,
came out that I think was called like Carnival, but I don't remember.
I don't know. There's so much good stuff and not enough time. And the same thing with RPGs.
Hmm.
So, although I think like a lot of us are like, I'm almost done watching Netflix.
Zine Quest like bankrupted me. And now I know like my zines are starting to ship and come in. And I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to play them.
I
But,
don't know.
it's like 6 months till the next Zine Quest when I'm
I
going to
guess
buy
on
a
the
whole
plus
bunch
side,
again.
I guess on the plus side though, like maybe you won't get to play them, but you probably read a bunch of them because they're smaller.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Brian Smith in chat just said Blades in the Dark fits that theme. I love Blades in the Dark. I was on a 3-shot Blade stream. That was so fun, but it was set in like modern North Carolina, so I didn't totally get that vibe. But yes, it can work really well with that theme.
Yeah, I haven't played that yet either. There's too many games.
What I love about Blades is so there's like the clock mechanic that's really cool as a GM
Yeah,
to increase the stakes. But what I really, really enjoy is like when you just say your load, basically, like how much you're taking with you. Is it light, medium, or heavy? And then later you can just say, like, I have this item.
okay.
And from your list, like, I have this. And then when you reach your max, like, you can't have that anymore. But you don't have to deal with inventory because I hate mathing stuff and keeping
Bookkeeping.
track of little things. Yeah, I hate
Really,
that
that's not
part.
why you play.
I know some people really like that aspect. They want to count the weight of their money and all of that, and I just hate it. So being like, oh, one of my favorite things about the game Threadbare is that the inventory is just you have stuff or you
Yeah.
don't have stuff, and that is the only thing.
Nice. Yeah, I prefer that. I also prefer rules light games as I get older. I really don't. I really have no desire to learn anything complicated anymore. Well, it's like 5e is rules light for D&D, but it's not
Mhm.
really rules light. It's like,
The thing that drives me up the wall about 5e, and I like 5e, is that so many people that I've met think that they can't learn another game because 5e, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, start with that. That's an easy game to learn. And
yeah, it's the worst.
It's not an easy game to learn. We just think that it is because it's how so many people recently have started. But like if you start with Honey Heist, that's an easy game to learn.
Yeah, Honey Heist. I mean, even the Powered by Apocalypse games, it's like, we. So my wife is kind of new to tabletop RPGs,
Yeah.
Even though we've been together since '93. So she's been more nerd adjacent.
Why haven't you been letting her at your table?
She's not allowed to separate things. No. You know what? She's never really been interested, so I never really pressed the matter. It wasn't until like, I guess maybe like 6 years ago, I started trying to get like my kids involved. And so we kind of did it all together, which didn't go very far. But, a couple years later, we kind of tried again. And now my son kind of plays casually. My daughter's never going to be interested, I don't think. And my wife got into it as well. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah.
She started with D&D, and then, we played The Expanse, and then Monster of the Week. And she's like, well, how do I make a character for this? I'm like, you actually don't even need me. Look, just check boxes.
Pick one.
The playbooks are so easy. Like, they're essentially pre-made characters with, a couple choices. And I remember like the first time I played Monster of the Week, and I went to go, oh, I don't know how to make a character. And then I looked down at the character sheet, the playbooks, and I was like, oh, just follow the instructions. So.
Yeah, I love that. And it's, the same thing with so many little games. They're like one-pager games, like pick 2 stats.
Yeah. As opposed to like when we used to play 3rd edition and like a new player would show up and be like, here, go sit in the corner for 2 hours with this stack of books.
Right.
And make a character.
And if you're playing a spellcaster, it might take you another hour just to figure out what all your spells do. And then here's a deck of cards so you can refer to them when you cast the spell during the game.
Yeah, it is like it's the gateway drug, it's the entry point, but it's not like the easiest way in.
Yeah.
It's just got the most brand recognition, and that's just it. Like, there's definitely a lot easier ones, and I guess that is why. Like, we always get the question is like, I want to play X using D&D. How do I do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Star Wars, there's like 6 games. Go pick one of those.
Yeah.
And people, don't want to learn a new game. Maybe it is very intimidating because like everyone thinks it's going to be as hard to learn as D&D.
Well, and some games are like, I love Changeling and Mage, but those games are also like, we're going to spend 3 hours making a character.
Yeah.
But like Symbaroum isn't, Vaesen isn't, and those can still be crunchy. Like even Forbidden Lands, right? That's a fun little dice pool. It could be like, it's like that. You're still making a character. It's not a playbook, but you're not going to be like rolling stats for 800 years.
I think it's just games that came out of that era, like, the 80s, 90s, early 90s maybe, where it was like all about the complexity and how many tables and charts can we squeeze into this book. And then I guess like around like when Fate came out, things started getting a lot easier.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was anything before Fate as far as rules light. It's the first one that kind of like came onto my radar. So I don't know. It reminds me I should play some more Fate. What is there anything you're particularly excited about nowadays?
Like in life?
Well, I guess in gaming, maybe, whether it's something you're working on, something that's coming out.
Yeah. The thing that I wrote for Pugmire, Squeaks in the Deep, is its Kickstarter is about to start. I don't know the exact date, but I'm really excited because I wrote the adventure for that. So that's going to be the newest Pugmire thing. It's not on Kickstarter yet, but at Onyx Path's like Monday meeting, they said that it's going to be the next Kickstarter. So that's really exciting, where you can play as a mouse or a rat. And it's a whole new world of Pugmire. That's coming out. And I have so many things that are like NDA'd that are coming out that I want to talk about, but I don't know when they're coming out, and I don't know when I could talk about them. But yeah, I have a lot of fun things coming at some point.
That I can't talk about.
Oh, one thing I can. Uncaged is doing, if you know about Uncaged. Oh, I have it right next to me. So even if you don't know it, you might recognize this. Uncaged, yay. Is doing a, oh no, I'm out of focus. Hey. 5th book that's all about goddesses, and we're accepting pitches right now. And I'm not running it, but I am on the admin team. It's going to be all tier 4. So if you have always wanted to write a tier 4 adventure about an evil or neutral goddess in D&D, check out Gwendy B's Twitter or the uncaged.anthology.com website, I think, and pitch for Uncaged Goddesses, because we're going to be doing that.
Will you also be writing on that, or are you working administrative side, or?
Maybe. I've pitched. We'll see if my pitches get picked up. We've had a lot of pitches so far. So right now I'm on the reviewing committee. So there's like 8 of us who are reviewing, and they're all anonymous, so I can't see who pitched what. Okay. I'm not reviewing the goddesses that I pitched for. Yeah. But after that, we'll see. And then I'm also there as like a writing coach for anyone who is like, I really want to write for this, but I'm afraid to write for tier 4 because that's intimidating. So I'm there to like help people, you know, get their stuff ready for tier 4, and half writing coach, half cheerleader.
Yeah, tier 4 is tough. Things change at that point a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, once they get access to Wish,
yeah,
it's like it becomes something completely different.
The biggest problem I've seen with people writing for tier 4 is that they either make the skill check so high or set things in places that take away anything cool that the players can do. So like if you've like, you know, they'll set them in a place where like magic doesn't work and thieves tools don't work, and none of your spells can work here, and everything is like immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. And you're like, well, now like I'm a level 20 character, but I feel like a level 2 character, just, you know, with 20 times the hit points.
I mean, that's a bit much.
You know,
like, you're just giving your players the big middle finger.
Right? Like
the point of being able to play at that high level is to do the cool stuff.
Right.
So the trick is to figure out how can you challenge them why they do the cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally took a holiday adventure and converted it because it was meant for like 3rd level characters, and they were like 17th. And I'm like, damn it, it's Christmas, we're running a Christmas game. And and part of it is like getting to the stronghold of Orcus Claws. And the sorcerer is like, I cast Wish and wish us to the mountain. Like, all right then.
One of my favorite games that I actually got to play in, Honey and Dice was running and ran for me and Paul, if he's still in chat, and our friend Cameron, who used to be on the Pugmire stream. And it was a level 20 Christmas adventure that we were all like Christmas spirits kind of thing. So like Cameron was the Krampus, I was the gavel goat that gets burned every year.
No, that sounds terrible.
Well, I made them, it was a Minotaur with like 3 in Bard that the rest in Flame Sorcerer, because the gavel goat was like, I'm tired of being lit on fire, I will now become the avatar of fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we fought like peppermint golems and stuff like that, and candy cane golems, and it was really fun.
I'm excited. I'm about to play a Spell Eater Minotaur.
Ooh.
So Spell Eater Minotaur is a monster we made up. But then Nerder Doug over on the website made a subclass for Barbarian, the Spell Eater. So now I'm going to play a Minotaur that is a Spell Eater Barbarian. So this will be fun. And like the whole thing is like shutting down low level spells.
Yeah.
At least for the monster, the class works a bit different because that.
That reminds me of in Skyrim. Actually, I played a character that I was calling the Mage Slayer,
Yeah.
and I gave them it was like the Atronach stone or something that like reduces your, I forget what it does, like reduces your own magicka but makes your magicka absorption higher or something. And then I took the shield, the Daedric shield that lets you like bounce spells off, and I was just like, I'm draining all of your spells and I need none of them.
You
So I
have no
basically just
magic.
reflected everybody's magic and then killed them all.
As you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking for that character I might have to take the Mage Slayer feat, which I've never used before. So I have to double check with the GM and make sure there'll actually be mages and people casting and concentrating on spells before I do that.
Oh yeah, it's no fun when
Yeah.
you're like set around something that doesn't happen.
Yes.
Yeah, for the longest time, my first several characters were like plant magicy, animal magicy type characters, and I was just always in dungeons.
Yeah.
And I was
That
like, "Can I control mushrooms?" And I was like, "There are no mushrooms here. There are only skeletons, and you cannot mind control them because they have no brain." I was like, "Well, then I'll just be over here being useless."
Let me see. Yeah. Unfortunately, like early gaming was like that a lot of times, and DMs and players didn't worry about that stuff. But now it's like, if you're going to, that's why it's important to set expectations before the game starts. Like, and for the GM to be like, here are some of the things we're going to be doing. So if you're making a character, you make a character that does those things.
Yeah.
You know, session 0 is super important.
Yeah, for safety tools and for expectations.
Yeah.
Even one of our Three Flinks players, like Uncaged is a very low combat series uh, as a whole. And Gwen, who plays Adara, our fighter, when she first told me she was going into like Battle Master fighter, and I was like, "Are you sure?" Because
Yeah.
like we had a big talk. She was like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And I was like, "Okay," because there's not like a lot of combat in Uncaged. She was like, "Yes, I want my character to be frustrated and annoyed." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So she's like a low charisma fighter who
Yeah.
is so good and like could just mow down any enemy, but she only gets to do that like once every 5 adventures.
Oh no. Although there are some maneuvers that don't involve necessarily combat.
Yeah, she did not take those.
Yeah. I did kind of like to see that when, especially with Tasha's, where they added some more of those in, where you kind of had some non-combat options.
Yeah, like there's like a leadership one or something, right?
Yeah, there's a leadership one. There's one that like you can either use for stealth or initiative.
Yeah. It helps if your fighter needs to be like the face.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you just want to build a different type of character, like having those options to throw in there for sure. So, in your home games that you're running, are you running like official stuff, homebrew stuff?
I have never run an official adventure. I had for the longest time as like a Patreon goal that I would run Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been met yet, and I ended up changing it anyway as a goal. So yeah, I always do homebrew stuff because I think it's so fun to just see like what the players want to do and then go from there. One of the most fun campaigns that I ran was actually Princesses Save Dragons. And that was like developed just from a shit post online. But all of the characters, like all the player characters, were trademark, not Disney princesses.
Yeah.
And they were all hired by, not Maleficent, trademark, to go rescue baby dragons and bring them to her. And that was what they did. And I got to take them through all like Alice in Wonderland and like Lady and the Tramp and 101 Dalmatians and the Great Mouse Detective and stuff like that. And it was really fun.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it was really fun.
There was, I guess, like pre-pandemic, and I know they've done some stuff since. They were doing Disney princesses playing D&D, which more of a show than a game, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We also tend to lean more towards homebrew as well. I
Mhm.
mean, I finally ran through my first official Wizards adventure, which was Curse of Strahd, just recently, and as a player, so that was kind of cool. But like, as far as like what you're saying, one, we like the creative aspect of just making our own stuff, and it's
Mhm.
easier to tailor to your players if it's not, in a pre-written adventure. But also, I just feel like it's a lot more work. So to read an adventure, change it, tailor it, where like if I just make stuff up, I'm just kind of reacting to what the players do and want to do.
Well, also with the official D&D adventures, I really don't like the way that they're formatted. They're formatted to be read, but not to be run.
Uh,
So, particularly with Strahd, when it's like you go to this area and the stuff in it, see page 138. And then on page 138, it's like, there's an item in there. To read the item description, see page 75. And you're
yeah,
like, flipping through this book. Like, it was,
clunky.
yeah. And it could be so much more streamlined for a DM because that's really frustrating to do like in the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. We. I
Like
like
it's nice
append.
like to sit down and read. It looks very pretty, but at the
Yeah,
table, like I don't want to be flipping pages.
I think so. So like we end up with all the adventures and picking them up. We never run them. We just pick through them for stuff.
Yeah.
So the way they tend to do it actually works better for us. But I can definitely see what you're saying because we never worried about running them.
Yeah.
Like we're just pulling out like bits and pieces that we like, and so like having all the monsters in one place and all the magic items in one place makes it easier. But for running it, you're absolutely right. Like if you're giving the thing out or dealing with a thing right here, that having to flip to the back of the book or someplace else would be a pain in the ass.
Yeah. I will say for one shot or for some adventures though, before I got really comfortable as a GM, I liked starting with a one shot of like a published adventure.
Uh,
And then I would just kind of go where my players wanted from that. Like that was how I did my first ever campaign was for Mouse Guard, and I did their like the Miller or whatever it's called, the one
uh,
that's in the Mouse Guard book, and I ran that, and then my players were like, "There's a great conspiracy here," and I was like,
yeah.
"Yeah, there is."
Although I feel like those kind of adventures where it's like the starter adventure that's like included, like
Mm-hmm.
they're perfect for that because they're short.
Yeah.
Generally, where which I've definitely done that as well, and they're also like kind of short and condensed. Like your players probably won't even know you're running a
Mm-hmm.
pre-written scenario for them, but like the big books where it's like 1 through 10th level or 1 through 20th level, that's a commitment.
Yeah.
And also, like, who could possibly do them all? What group is doing them all when like two of them come out a year?
One of my friends run her is a player for all of them and also does Palladium. And I was like, bless you, like has been in multiple campaigns that go like levels 1 through 20.
Yeah, that just seems like tough.
I'm just admiring the group's like commitment to scheduling.
Yeah,
Because
because
unless it's a streamed group, I haven't had a group that is that willing to like come together that
yeah.
often.
Well, I feel like so Curse of Strahd, we ran that. We were doing Saturdays. I mean, they were kind of short sessions, like 11 to 1:30, but it was every Saturday for just over a year, and like we had just gotten through it. So I mean, even I guess maybe like longer sessions could have maybe done it in 6 months, but
Yeah.
you figure now they're putting out 2 or 3 adventures a year, so it just seems like a lot for any one group to go through.
To go through.
Yeah, yeah. You got like Ravenloft, Hell, Cholt.
Yeah. Although some of the stuff looks pretty fun that's been coming up.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things I do like about it is like they've done a really good job of varied themes and locations,
Yeah.
and like each one seems to do a different type of adventure. So, but I don't know, homebrew is where I live. So we are just at the hour mark. Any final thoughts before we head on out?
Thanks for having me on. This was really fun.
Well,
And if you're watching this come live, come watch Threeflings tonight at 8 p.m.
absolutely.
Eastern.
Thanks for coming on. Links are in the description. Go track Jessica down and check out all the fun things they're doing. So until next time, stay nerdy.